This is video number 14 on multi-section surface, and I would like to discuss the concept of guides that are used in this icon. I want to remind you that this particular video is going to go into the playlist devoted to 3D Experience CATIA generative shape design, but the one that is associated with the surface tab. There's another playlist for the wireframe tab of multi-section surfaces. When you are in the generative shape design within CATIA, 3D Experience CATIA, the ribbon at the bottom of the page ordinarily looks like that, and there's a surface tab here. Once the surface tab is selected, you have access to the multi-section surface. Upon clicking on the multi-section surface, this dialog box shows up, and notice that the concept of guide, whatever it is even definable at this stage. You don't even have to go to the advanced option in order to define guide. It is right here. So it must be something straightforward. The Google definition of a guide is that it's curves that helps you uh, give desired shapes to the multi-section surface that you're interested in, or the lofted surface that you're interested in. The terminology loft is not used in 3D Experience CATIA. It's called multi-section as opposed to loft. Now, uh, as I said, the purpose of the guide in the multi-section surface is to provide an absolute path to blend sections. And what that means is that you specify curves that must intersect the different sections, whether 2 or 3 or 4, and the path of this surface generated, or in case you're doing multi-section solid, is trying to follow that curve. Okay, you can have as many guides as you want, and sometimes guides are actually generated by default. You don't have to do it. For example, closing points are always connected together via a guide which is a straight line, for example, but you can change that. Now, I'm following this some of the aspects of this video. The only problem is that this was done 5 years ago, and the interface and icons have changed quite a bit from what you see up there and what I'm doing currently in release 2026x. Okay, so let's go ahead and do first a simple problem. I'm going to make just 2 sections right now. So one of them is here. Let's make a section. For example, I'll do something like this. Let me actually do a profile. So maybe like so, like so, like so, a curve. The actual shape and dimensions don't matter. Okay, so this is going to be one of the sections, one of the sketches. Then I'm going to create a second one, which is going to be on a plane offset from this plane. So let me go to plane offset from this, and I'll make it 100. There we are. So let me draw another section on this, another profile on that. So for example, I'll make maybe a spline or something, and then maybe a line from here to there. Okay, exit. Now, so I've got 2 sketches, and I can create a multi-section surface through those 2. Later on, I'm going to do it with 3, but it really doesn't matter right now. So it's going to be 2 multi-section surfaces. The first section is, for example, that spline. Notice that it's recorded here. The second section, I'm going to use this, and notice that the arrows point in the same direction, and these are starting points. If these are going in a different direction, then of course it's going to be twisted surface. We don't want that. Now, if you say, notice that here we have selected our 2 sections, and we are not in the advanced option. We are just in the standard dialog box there, and you say preview is going to go like this. Now, suppose I want to create some guides which takes the section here, a specific point of a section on the right side to a specific point on the section of the left side. So here's what I'm going to do. Let me create one point, for example, a point. I want to create a point a little bit higher than the height of these 2 points. So let's say on a curve right there. But I want to change the coordinates so it goes up a little bit. Double click on it with coordinate and I go up, up, up until I'm happy. There we are, and say OK. So I'm going to create a spline between these 3 points. So spline between these 3 points. I'll do other ones too. This one and that one and that one, and say OK. Okay, now going to the multi-section surface for a guide, for a guide, I select that spline. The only problem is that notice that the way I did it, the spline and the point are after multi-section surface, so it doesn't see it, so cancel that. Let me do a bit of a cleanup here. Let me move this thing up, reorder, put it before multi-section, and same thing with this one, reorder. I have to move it above multi-section, otherwise you won't see it before multi-section. Now I can access that spline. So double click on multi-section. For a guide, I select this spline and just what should happen. The default was connecting this point to that point with a straight line. Now it follows that guide. Let's do another one. Let me do another one. Did I cancel that? No. Yeah. Let me delete this. This is terrible because there's no reason why this is not showing up. Oh, I see. That's why, because point is underlined. Right click, defining work object. There we are. Okay, good. I was losing my head. Okay, now let me do another spline. For example, another guide. For example, I'm going to go point. Let me do this thing on a. Let me do so that I don't run into that situation. Let me go ahead and do it after this spline. Define in work object. Okay. All right. Good. Or let me do the following. Deactivate define in work object. Good. Let me do another point, another spline. So I'm going to go and do a point. Say on this curve, let's say somewhere in the middle, and I create it, and I want to move this thing up. So let me double click on this, and I can use coordinates now. Move it up and to the left, whatever you want. So maybe up like that, a little bit to the left, and then say OK. And now I create a spline as my guide between this point and that point and that endpoint. If I can hold like that, can I select this point right there? Okay, good. And I'm going to use both of these, this spline and the other one, to create my new multi-section surface. So I go to Surface tab, multi-section surface. I select Sketch 1. I select Sketch 2. And for guides, I select that first spline that I made. That's this one over here. And the second one that I made over there. And watch what happens. Obviously, this is going to go through that, but the surface is going to adjust itself so it goes through that guide. Good. You can have as many guides as you want, but there is a caveat. The guides must start on one section and end at the other section. They must intersect it. It can go past that, by the way, but the guide must intersect the sections. Okay, I have cleared my screen because I want to do a guide curve with three sections. So first thing I'm going to do is create two other planes. Let's say a distance of 200 millimeters. It really doesn't matter. Again, 200 millimeter. All right. Then on that plane in the back, I will sketch just to make my job easier. And instead of spending a lot of time creating things, I'm going to make a centered rectangle back there, centered rectangle like that, and exit. And then on this other one, on this other plane, another centered rectangle, different size. For example, something like this, exit. And finally, on this other last plane, I will draw also a centered rectangle, a different size. But just to make my job easier, I'm making sure that they're all centered at the same location. That's not necessary, but okay, good, good. Now, I will create, first of all, planes that I don't need, I'm going to hide. Hide. Actually, none of these planes I need. I'll leave the rectangles on. Is the plane? Yeah, hide. Good. Now, what I will do is to create points, 3 points on these edges. And the easiest way of doing this is wireframe point on a curve, on this curve, this, okay, maybe just about halfway. Okay, very good. Another one on this curve, and once again, about halfway. And finally, another one on this curve, also about halfway. Now, what I'm going to do is to create a point, uh, a third point. For example, one way of doing it is say between this point and that point. The point in the middle is created. And once it's created, then I can go and say coordinates. So I can give it different values. So I can go Z up, for example. Okay. And I will go, for example, Y a little bit to the right. Very good. Okay, so it's just that I have 3 points here, 4 points, and I can pass a spline through them. So I'm going to go create a 3D splines between these 3 points, 4 points. Uh, this was the one on the edge. This is the next one that I created, kind of randomly there. And then finally there. So I have created a 3D splines here, which is going to be used as my guide. And notice that one requirement for the guide is that the guide is actually intersecting the sections, and it does. You can see that. So now we're going to go to the Surface tab, multi-section surface. First, I'm not going to use this guide. I'm going to see how it's going to be without using the guide. So I'm going to select the sections. This is the first one. This is the second one. And this is the third one. I'm going to check the starting closing points and direction, make sure that there's nothing unexpected here. I think it's all right. So notice that the closing point is up there for the first one, up there for the second one, and up there for the third one, and the direction are all counterclockwise. So if I do not use the guide and I say preview, I get this sketch, this uh, surface. But if I select the guide, put the cursor there, left click, and then select that spline that you created, which was spline 1, and watch what happens when I say preview. There. So notice that when I use the guide of interest, it changed the shape here. If I go back here and once again delete this preview, this is how it's going to look like. But to change the shape, I can use a guide uh, uh, selected, for example, this spline that I created, and preview, and it looks like that. So you can use as many guides as you want. It's just that you just have to create them, and you have to make sure that the guides intersect the sketches. That's pretty much it. We're going to be talking about spines in the next